Special meeting to order at 1:02. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Polly.
Here.
Trustee
Here.
Lappin.
Here.
Clerk Flavich here. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Here.
Trustee Kroll,
Here.
Trustee Reiner.
Excuse.
Supervisor Kozibowski.
Is there a difference between what was attached to the agenda and what was printed out here today?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so, no.
This one's printed the third and this one, so this one's more updated.
Right, but we haven't made any changes since the third on it.
We gotta go check that adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is that you, Laura?
Yes.
I'll support it. Voice
Voice
vote.
vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I can't.
Public comment.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if there was. This is the first opportunity for public comment. If there's anybody online who.
Guess
has
who's
a
walked
comment,
in?
please raise your hand.
Look at the cat dragging. Welcome, Ross.
Seeing none, if there's anybody in person with public comment. Also seeing none. Let's move on to the purpose of the meeting. It's a budget workshop. Today we're discussing the water sewer budget.
So that starts on page 16.
Thank you. Packets, Michelle.
There weren't packets, there was just the budget.
Okay, there's nothing in my box.
No.
So Michelle and I worked a little bit on this on Friday. We made some adjustments. So I guess we'll start there at the top.
Are they reflected here?
Yeah.
I'll just say that I have no clue what this water budget is. It is,
Yeah, there's definitely some line items here that I hope are way wrong.
So there was some stuff that we came across, and adjusted down accordingly. But there's still some stuff that I'm unclear of too, but I'm working on that.
From water. Income is less,
We're
1.6. Amended budget, and we went to 1.6.
Water sales.
Oh, I see. Okay. I believe that's just a water purchase from,
no,
That's the
that's
revenue.
oh, I'm
that-
sorry.
because it looks like we overestimated the revenue
Yes.
for water and sewage sales in this budget year. We're not even going to come close to hitting those
Okay.
As revenue?
as revenue.
So they were over budgeted last year.
Over budgeted, yes.
Just to make that clear to everybody.
That's why they're coming down this year.
Revenues. Water sales.
You're at 642.000. I forgot my my ruler. Okay.
Oh,
The special assessment, we talked about that, I think previously that the special assessment was over.
this is your last year for collecting that, right, Laura?
The 23, the
Yes.
first two, yes, but then we're gonna continue to collect Russell Court and Lay Road. Not
Okay.
very much money, but
But still something.
I would just put that in there because those are like. I
So
think
keep the
12
500 and the 50 that we currently have.
Yeah,
So
they're like 12 more years in each of them. Yeah, we barely collect anything.
So just to clarify, what I'm doing in here is I need to chase scooch these over.
Yes, and you're gonna put it under the recommended, because that means.
Okay, and I don't have to do anything with these, right?
wait a second now, there is no revenue, no additional funds coming in for the first two line items?
Correct.
Right, we have one more payment, I think one interest payment and one
And it was,
principal payment.
that
and
was the
we-
bond for US 23 South and we collected on the winter 2024 tax bill was the last time we collected that.
But on Russell Court, there's still only $500 that was
And,
projected to come in.
In the
and
next
like,
12 years.
and like,
Really?
they were like, they went to the county and they were, I don't know if they were foreclosed on or something. Somehow the county got them back and then they gave them back to us and then we're just collecting this little itty bit of money.
Hmm.
So they'll be hanging out there for a while. Lay Road and Russell Court. You look nice, Russ. Boy. Why you dressed up for us
There's our water department at F and B.
online?
Yeah, that's online.
Oh.
She's a,
Yes, I'm here. Unfortunately, Nathan Lytle is ill today and was able to attend in person.
You're a mystery person, I didn't see it.
She's on the
she's
other.
over there on the
screen.
other one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Good catch.
So we don't have any really big projects coming up for,
not that I'm
You
aware
can see
of.
what
other than Hampton Inn. Oh, well, they're big.
No.
Where
Not
we
that I'm
would
aware.
collect big fees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not that I'm aware of. I'm hopeful that it will happen. That something will come up, but as of right now, I don't have anything.
Are we doing any expansion?
Who?
Didn't we apply for Kath, didn't we apply for a large federal grant? And
We didn't get it, Steve.
Can you guys hear me?
we're gonna reapply for this year?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Kath, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that the township had applied for a SRF, a state revolving fund, twice. And the first time you were in the fundable range and then they reassessed the funding because they added back a couple projects and that pushed you out of the fundable range. The second time you were not in the fundable range, and I think last year opted to not reapply. Our engineers, I believe, are going to apply again because they've changed the scoring criteria.
Okay,
Are hoping that you will do better with scoring, and I believe that I wasn't able to make the meeting that they had with Abby. But in regard to that, I think that they were just going to do that as part of, our regular client agreement with you, not any additional charge to resubmit that
okay.
application, and try to see if the changes in the scoring criteria are advantageous to the township.
Yeah.
There was also discussion about a USDA. Those are not grants, those are generally loans. Low interest loans up to 40 years. And so, that would be a potential funding mechanism, if you are unable to get any funding through the state. So some of that's, I believe, still in process. They have to have the intent to apply in, I believe, in April, so they'll probably have some follow-up with the township.
Yes, so I met with some of the engineers from F and B last week and had conversation with them about what the USDA loan looked like and where we were at with it. And that's why we were working with the rate specialist to separate the water and sewer as required to be able to get that loan. I think that we're gonna have another conversation with the rate specialist this week, because I think we're making some good progress on there. We're should be able to have that finalized. And then once that is finalized, we can apply for that USDA loan as well. They told me that there's not a bad time to apply for that. We can apply anytime, but the best time to apply for it is in like June. So hopeful that we can have all of that together to be able to apply. And then that, again, is not necessarily a grant. There's potential for there to be some grant funding, but it mostly would be a low interest loan.
Right.
How come, on maintenance charges? I mean, it dropped like 70,000. Is that because that was another one that wasn't budgeted correctly?
What GL are you
Uh-huh.
talking?
592,000,626 maintenance charges, 7,500.
I don't know why it had 75,000 for last
We-
year's budget, because if you look at the 3 years prior,
Right,
it's 7,300,
right.
8,900 and 8,000. So to me, it was like it was budgeted with an extra zero it shouldn't have had.
Right.
Noticed, no, new construction. I realize it's hard to budget for something that we don't know if it's gonna be built or not built. But we also have but then there's a, significant drop in the hookup fees, but no money under the new construction. Is it not, can we not assume that a hookup fee is new construction then?
I don't know how those get put in.
Yeah, new construction, potentially would be something where they're actually doing an extension of the system. Say a new subdivision came online or something like that. Whereas as the hookup fees, are specific to like an individual building, slightly like when the Hampton Inn, connected, they paid like a tap fee or a hookup fee.
Okay, so like
Yeah.
using the Hampton as an example, that new construction line item would have been in for, say, last year or the year before that. And that if it hasn't been hooked up yet, then the hookup fee would come after the new construction.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how those GLs work. To me, they, because it says, new sewer construction, water, UB, and I'm assuming that's utility billing. That would be, potential added revenue for new construction, not necessarily construction costs or connection fees. I'm not quite sure how those
Hmm.
are delineated. Do you have any idea, Laura?
To me, it looked,
No.
this is Michelle. Yeah, but to me, it looks like we needed 15,000 more of revenue, so we put money in those two accounts, because we've never used those GLs before.
No.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
It's
yeah,
like
I don't
last-
know if that is like I said, if it's an indication of additional revenue that may be coming in from new hookups. Or if it is actually in relationship to a system expansion of some kind, because I've never seen another. I mean, obviously that GL exists, but I've never seen it in a municipal budget for normal water and sewer operations.
I don't think we should even look at our amended budget for 24-25 for revenue estimates, because it seems like we were way off on everything.
Well, and I guess the only reason why I'm bringing that up is that we have this line item for new construction in a policy, or excuse me, in a budget year, that the only way we would know of something going to be built is if the planning commission had already essentially approved it, and it would be happening sometime in the future.
Right.
And
Right.
That's
so-
why we
So
didn't
that's
put
why we left
anything
it-
for this year.
Correct. That's why those are left blank, because I can't anticipate that. I don't have any knowledge of that. And I'm not gonna put any kind of,
No, I understand why
Artificial
I
guesstimate
get
in
why
there.
we wouldn't put anything there. I get
Right.
that. But it kind of seems like an interesting thing to have in there, I guess. Excuse me. So we're just like the infiltration charge, we're just sort of carrying that forward from the past.
Yeah.
yeah.
It looks like it's always been right around that area.
So the potential that we do have though in the hookup fees, which I don't know, again, I'm not sure if the 15,000 is a suitable number or not, but that would be, from my understanding, if the lots at like Wildcat Court sold, because the infrastructure is already there. So they would just be tapping into those
Yeah, no,
lines.
I totally get that. That's why I just didn't understand the new construction line item being in there, because how do we anticipate a year in advance or months in advance what may or may not happen?
Kath,
So-
wasn't there discussion on whether or not the Wildcat Court subdivision or whatever had already paid their hookup fees, or if they had maybe not paid those?
If there was, I wasn't part of that direct discussion. Laura.
I think Nate was talking about it because I think they were looking for some paperwork to find out whether or not they had already paid that or if they had not paid that.
I mean, for.
Yeah, and that
For
would be.
future homes?
Yeah.
That
So-
doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
So what we did find two
There
contracts
was a
from.
discussion, I don't
Yeah.
remember the details. but I
Nate
do-
Weigel was talking about it.
So there's two contracts that we found in the records.
Okay.
That's all that we have that show what fees were paid. The question is whether or not. How the fee was determined, because they do not fall in line with what our fee schedule is. But they were done, I think one was like 2002. Maybe,
That sounds right of what Nate was saying.
yeah, and the other one didn't have a date on it at all. And they were not attached to the accounts at all, it was just some paperwork that he was able to find, so going forward, I spoke to the attorney about it, already, and we're just.
Speaking of attorney, wouldn't they know something about that when
So
that
I-
first went in?
I asked him about it, and he doesn't have anything on record either.
Tim,
It doesn't seem reasonable that the school system would pay hookup fees to a future owner of a piece of land.
Well, exactly, plus the fact that I don't think they even decided to build out those,
Till like
or
2
actually sell
till
those
like 2 weeks
lots.
ago.
They were gonna build them out probably with this
Right.
construction crew,
Right.
but they didn't, and
Right.
I can't imagine that now they're selling the lots.
They listed all 5 of them.
Was
Okay.
five, I thought it was 4. Okay.
Oh, maybe 4. Well,
So if those were to sell, okay, if those were to sell and they were built on, then that would be, those would fall under the hookup fees, the tap fees there.
interesting.
But then again, like, so the Crittenden Court area, just so that you're all clear on that too, that's already been built out, so those will be tap fees again. We won't be doing any kind of new build out there as of yet.
There's no
lots-
properties left.
There's lots
There's
behind.
lots, but they've already have the water, they already have everything built infrastructure wise to them.
Yeah, but they don't
So
have
they
a
would just-
hookup, so,
No, they would be the tap fees.
Right,
the hookup
right,
fees, Correct.
all right.
So we're good with leaving that.
Do we already build out then the curb to the curb stop? Is that what we've done when we put in the main? Is
And at
our
Wildcat,
infrastructure has the
Yeah.
lines to the curb stop?
yeah, there would just be from what I would understand, and
Just-
maybe Kath can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a water line that runs along the right of way, and then the homeowner, the business owner has to tap into that line.
Oh, okay. I thought we had from the main to, but it depends on which side of the street the main.
Well, not only that, you don't know where that house is, that property is gonna go,
Where do you see that?
Right.
So I don't know how you would,
Well, they
Put a
can't
water
build into
line
the
in.
right of way, but.
yeah, because somebody would be digging something up to put in a foundation and potentially dig through a water line somewhere, a hookup line.
I think
Hi, Steve.
Well, they wouldn't have the line to the house.
Right, right. Go ahead.
Yeah, it depends, sometimes when they do subdivisions, like say a developer was gonna build a new subdivision, they would run the water lines, they would pay, the connection fees in advance and run the service to the curb stop, which is in the road right of way, and just terminate it at that point. And then, assuming that it's, like I said, a platted subdivision where they're gonna be building individual homes. A lot of times on commercial properties, they won't do that, or if it's not a subdivision development, if it's just, like a vacant lot on where there's a main in front of it, which may or may not be sold, they wouldn't have run,
Yeah,
done the tap and the curb stop. So it's a kind of a case by case situation. And so, I think with a lot of that, we have to go back to tax records to see if there was like a special assessment or if the tap fees were already paid. And I know talking to township staff in the past, one of the past DPW directors, apparently a lot of those records were disposed of potentially inappropriately in regard to some of those special assessments and or sewer water contracts.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Kath.
Good with the 75.
For the maintenance charges, I'm good with that.
Appropriation charges, I think, yeah, so we just kind of tried to average that and carry it over.
Yeah, it looks pretty static.
And water sales would go down that much, you think?
I,
Just the guesstimate.
Well,
Oh, because the other one was higher, so you're,
The Hampton's gonna come on board, so that's gonna jack them up a bit.
Probably not as much as you would think.
thanks, Kat.
Yeah, the hotel, because, it's not the same as adding full-time residential houses. A lot of times hotels, they used to have higher consumption because they would do like laundry and stuff on site, but I know the majority of them now send their linens and stuff out to be laundered. So, their water consumption may actually be on a per capita basis lower than a residential usage. So I don't know how many rooms that hotel is, but even with full occupancy, it's not gonna be equivalent to that many, houses. If there's 100 rooms, it's not gonna generate the same water usage as 100 houses. Probably only about a tenth of it.
Interesting. So again, from a water and sewer standpoint, basically it looks like we way overestimated last year's budget and you're just sort of bringing it down into more of a reality based upon previous year's budget.
right, because there's no way that we're gonna collect in the next 2 months, 500,000 just in water sales and 300,000 or another 500,000 in sewer.
we have unbilled revenues in here twice.
The water sales in there, twice.
What's that?
We got a water sales up here and then a water sales down here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird.
That one doesn't have anything.
What is the water sales at the top though? Why is that one specific?
Well, the one is, we should make that other GL inactive on the top.
Mhm.
The 600. So,
Unbilled revenues, neither one of them are. Have anything budgeted for them.
I think that is an adjustment that happens at the end of the year with the auditors.
Oh, so you think leaving both in there?
I would,
It's kind of confusing.
doesn't one have numbers from previous years?
The unbilled revenue,
Yeah,
unbilled.
Yeah.
the First one,
yeah, so we would leave that one.
maybe I could just, to add like audit next to it and just leave the other one.
I wouldn't write the audit next to it.
So just remove the second one.
Yeah,
Make it inactive.
and provisional, we're completely done collecting on that.
what's the delinquent water bills on tax? Is that
So every year there's water, sewer usually, right? Sewer?
Mostly,
Mostly sewer that
But there's
doesn't,
water too.
there is
okay,
water.
so either way, water and sewer that doesn't get paid and after, was it 6 months, it turns over.
It's like you have to go back 6 months and then the 6 months prior to this 6 months, it's this.
So then that
It
gets
goes on the
added to the
tax
tax
bill.
bill for unpaid.
And then we show that as a,
Income, revenue.
well, it's in parentheses, so.
Because it's already showing up in the revenue account for water and sewer. And if,
As sales. And then.
right,
you're
it's
cutting
showing
back
up
what you're
there,
doing.
right.
And then should that monies be collected through the tax process, does that money then reimburse
The water.
the
fund.
water fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's safe to assume then if, is it all typically also a delinquent property tax as well?
No.
Oh, okay. So
So-
somebody could just be,
So when we collect the taxes on the winter bill, it does say delinquent water. So, you know, all the lists, everybody that gets the money out of the money we collect. And one of the checks is for delinquent water.
okay,
So when I do the distribution of tax, one of them is made out to us for delinquent water, and then we put it in this account.
okay, I got you.
You reduce the debit on there, or the credit, whichever it would be.
Right. Now, you have that on here too.
When we were collecting interest earned, I see that it's dropped dramatically. Was that the interest that was through the provisional funds?
It's all the interest for water goes in there.
Okay, but the money that was the interest earned on that monies that we collected for the escrow. Why did it drop so much?
That's more than just the escrow
Is
interest.
that's, yeah, but it's everything.
It's
All
everything.
funds
It's the,
relative to water. It's,
yes,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
But that's the interest, and then 669 is the investment income from the CD, or not the CD,
Oh,
the
Uh-oh.
liquidity.
Right.
It just said it did.
So that
drop.
money's not in the CD anymore, so it's not interest, it's investment income this year.
So that 50,000 that was 107, was 98, was 152. Why did it drop so much?
Because now it's separated out through the investment income. The auditors wanted us to change that at our last audit to separate it.
But the investment income looks like it's been pretty static over the last.
So
3
we
years.
might need to up the investment income. Is
Is
what you're
that-
saying?
I don't know. I'm wondering why the, if you've just reallocated the money, wouldn't that number be higher?
They took 400 out.
Right.
So it's 2.3.
And there's five,
But that's not where this 2.3 is.
so out of all the money that was earning that interest, 500,000 plus was sent to the city.
Right.
500,000 was left and then another 400,000 was moved to general fund. So it's lost about $1 million.
Well, it has, the 500,000 really hasn't been lost.
Right,
It's
right,
sitting
it's in
there, you know,
there.
yeah. And so it just doesn't, the number doesn't seem right. I guess
So what seems like a more reasonable number, like 60,000?
well, I guess what I was gonna say is that once again, I'd rather be real light on the revenue side than to overestimate the revenue, which is only going to exacerbate the problem on the expense side. So maybe it's just a question that I have as to allocation, but I don't know that I necessarily want to adjust anything because interest rates are going to continue to come down.
That was another thought you had too, wasn't it, Laura?
Mhm.
Interest rates continuously are going down.
Plus, we're gonna figure out that instead of dividing that pooled interest income divided by 3, I'm gonna come up with a formula to make it more. Depending on how much it earns, you know, general earns more with just interest. Instead of dividing it evenly between the.
Yeah.
We're
But we
gonna
talked,
Prorate it out.
Right,
we talked about the
Right.
doing an allocation based upon actual.
right.
Yeah, okay.
So that might change too, but, did you get these numbers from the GL details? Like the 50 and the 40? Do you know where I am
No, I think we just were looking at it and,
from the other numbers?
yeah,
Okay.
and we recognize the
I mean,
fact
I
that some of
could
the money had moved around.
Just run them, just giggle, just to see what it comes up to be.
I'm not sure what you're
From
saying.
the GL, what we actually,
Like to get a more accurate number, you saying?
Well,
yeah,
the actual number is in the third column.
the 107,500.
Why are we
That's
adjusting?
amended.
Yeah,
Oh,
why
that's
are we
right. Okay, I'm
adjusting
sorry.
those if they're not?
98 and
I'm not
52 is what
Where?
we're talking
Where it says where it says 15,075.
Because this is the recommended budget, so I have to put the amount in it to make it, right?
Yes,
Make it
yeah.
match the column next to it.
What it wanted, okay, so.
No, this is just, I'm just putting the changes in what the actual budget's gonna look like. So all those ones that are zeros are gonna stay zeros, and the ones that we're sliding over and proposing.
What, first you look at the proposed and then whatever
Right.
we decide here
It
becomes
drags up.
recommended,
Right.
but she's gotta manually put it in.
Okay, all right.
Because these ones up here that are under like the Russell Road, those shouldn't have been zeros, right? 'Cause we're
No,
counting
you,
that money.
right,
Okay.
right.
So
You-
that was just, yeah,
That's correct.
with the new water construction and the new sewer, I'm not putting any over there because we can't estimate on.
And we've never
I
put
don't
money in
wanna-
those jails
Right, I don't
before.
wanna artificially inflate these numbers. I want this to be.
So are we good on revenues?
Are you guys good with the water and sewage sales at 1.6 million and 1.3 million?
Gosh, you guys are gonna be better guesstimating at that than I think we would. What has been what was the previous, I mean, it sounds like we had
Looks like the-
1.3
1.3 and 1.
and 1, and so there's still you still have about a 15% increase on 1 and about a.
Well, we're still collecting water sales and sewage sales for 2 more months.
Well,
Yeah.
so my question is does that to the people that are dealing with it day to day look like a more realistic number?
Well,
Or what do you think? You collect,
What are we looking?
I feel like we're in our slow period where we use the least amount of water.
Where are we talking about the water sales?
Yes.
Lines up 23 or 22.
I guess the question how did we arrive at those particular numbers?
They're saying, but I
Well,
assume they've.
Steve, we took a
calculated this.
dartboard.
Well, that, yeah,
And-
well, I realize
And then
that,
Like we
because-
threw some darts to get some numbers
Says
on
the
here.
331.29.
well, I understand
There's only 2
that, but
months.
I
If
mean,
you look at these, there was one.
how accurate are those darts being thrown?
1.3, 1.2.
I had my eyes shut, so I
Okay.
would say
We
no.
got 2 more months to go.
Steve,
That, I didn't work on these, but it is like the best guess because they were very inflated last year.
Yeah, everything was
So
so
it's really
inflated.
hard to really look at.
If they're saying.
So did
these
we,
are short
did we,
2
for
months,
example,
fine, but
take
That's not what this says up here.
10 months worth of
Yeah,
known
yeah.
revenue
Because I don't know why. it
and
doesn't-
from the
there's
past
2
of
more
the
months to go on top of that.
upcoming 2 months,
Yeah,
did we
they're about right.
put those numbers in there?
At least I'm gonna say that.
Well, from 1 year to the next, they should be pretty close to the same because we haven't had a water increase and water consumption, if anything, would be up a titch rather than down. Because we have added a couple folks into our system.
That's kind of my point. That's exactly my point, is that theoretically, if the 1.326 million in the 24-25 represents, if I'm understanding what you're saying, up to about 10 months worth of revenue.
Mhm.
And so then if I were to take that number, divide it by 10, I'm going to look at at least another $132,000 a month, to get to 12 months. And then that number could be just sort of slid over into the proposed budget, which is that 1.6 million based upon that will be a little bit high.
The 1.6 will be high?
If I take the 1,326,000, which represents 10 months of revenue,
We have.
Yeah,
had a
it's
little bit.
1.591.
what is it?
1.59.
Okay, so I mean,
So-
I'm okay with 1.6 because there has been some movement. I just wondered how we got there.
Plus, we've just been advised to raise rates. Right?
Say again?
Didn't we get a recommendation to raise rates?
We did, but that's not in here.
No,
No. Because the board
but,
hasn't voted.
but we
on it.
can do that.
Yeah.
I think we were planning to do it as of April 1.
I think that based upon what we've learned, we're not gonna have much choice.
Right.
Unless we can reduce some of these upcoming expenses rather dramatically.
So, so it's 1.5, whatever I said, 1.58, 1.59 for the water, and then for the sewer be 1.262.
So they're,
So
so I mean, those
they're
numbers are
pretty
Good number.
Yeah.
I think these numbers.
pretty close
are
to.
decent.
Okay with that?
I
So,
think you did the best guess you could.
so I've been confused about this. So you're saying that it's 10 months, it says the top of the column says 24-25 activity through March 31-25. So, but you haven't added proposed 2 months into that. You're just saying that's for
Well-
the 10 months.
Right, it's only
So
10
really-
months, because we only. have
Well, the
planned for 10
column's
months.
labeled wrong, in my opinion.
That's
At the
just,
top,
Yeah,
well, tell BSNA,
what?
tell BSNA.
tell me it's an A, because that's how they do it. You have to look to see the date the report was done,
Right.
and then it gives you
Right.
that date.
And so that
Yeah,
comment
they don't,
is accurate through the entire budget then. So if we went back
Yes,
to the general,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So I guess for your knowledge and mine, and everybody else's maybe, is that those numbers are 2 months short of
Yeah.
what the full number would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that causes confusion for me.
Which is probably why the 1.6 and the 1.3 are not bad numbers.
I think they're good. Cash and I decided that, and
Yeah. We can move on.
All right, please, I'll say.
I think everybody was okay with that.
Let's get to that.
on the page.
Are we flipping the page? So we're good with the NSF charges and the scrap metal, right?
Yeah.
oh, I think we should get a lot more scrap.
Well, you could start walking down the road picking it up.
Yeah. Do we have a bottle drive?
I've got a few pieces of well pipe in my shed. I'll give
I
you.
mean, what would a refund be for? I mean, I know it's sitting on there, but we don't ever get refunds in the water
There's nothing
department.
there.
There isn't anything there, even cash over short, I don't even know if those are even.
We would get a refund if we overpaid something. We try very hard not to do that with the water
Right.
department.
See,
Hydrant meter rental, Laura.
because that's the same thing why was it 9,223.24?
Then it went down to 950.
Right, that's current.
We back on page 1?
but that's-
Maybe, Kath, you probably don't know who, did
I
a
do.
hydrant rental before, didn't some construction company do
Oh,
that?
Yes, you're right.
Is it Goodrich
Yeah,
or?
Goodrich runs.
Yeah.
As
We
they have
see
to
Goodrich
decide.
is annual, and I think a
Which-
lot of that high revenue from the 23-24 period. If you think about what was constructed during that time, a lot of it was the beginning of the Hampton Inn construction project right at the end of that period. So that would have been, the fourth quarter of last year. And when they were working on the foundation work and everything for that building, they were using a lot of water. Goodrich, we normally have annual fees for them, but you can see that those are usually like around $1,000 or less. They're not pulling that much water.
Hydrant meter rental, we have hydrant meter deposit. I think they originally taken it from hydrant meter rental.
Yes, they were.
So the water tower rental fees, that's AT&T,
Verizon, T-Mobile.
Verizon.
T-Mobile. And one
So
more.
we're pretty static with that, or
What GL is that?
667.010,
6.
because again, that was potentially inflated. But I'm not sure why it was 54 and then 63 almost. and then-
Are you still on revenue?
Yeah, we're still in
Oh,
revenue.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure before I move these numbers over that we're all good with them.
$1,000.
I think that's only 9 months of revenue on that one because they generally pay in arrears, don't they, Laura?
Who is,
The water
The
tower.
water tower rental fees, don't they normally pay at the end of the month? I think that may only be 9 months of revenue reflected in this revenue statement.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look and see when I don't process those payments typically, so it's not fresh in my mind. I think it is in the beginning of the month that they send them in, but I'm not positive. But I can look, if you want me
This
to.
is what you guys are just talking about doing with the justice of.
Were you saying go ahead and fill them in? Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking, that was what you, Steve had brought up about the.
Investment income.
So figure that.
I think we talked about just leaving them. in.
I think we should just leave it. I know, but I can't remember how you answered that.
Oh, I know.
I don't-
I know. That's what I was trying to say.
All right, we're ready to move on.
You sound so excited.
Move down.
Keep it going. Keep going, guys.
We're still paying on Kelly's retirement.
We
Well,
are.
we're,
I'm just
we're
kidding.
dealing,
I know we're not.
Dip it in.
we're dealing with, from the rest of the column revenue stream down, we're dealing with really small numbers and we have a great big hole to fill when we get to the bottom of the expenses.
Right now, we're 108,000 over budget.
But better than the 600 that it was in the budget,
How much
Well,
is it?
we were 600,000, so
right?
Where is it now?
190.
we're at 190. So the first part of the expenses are all payroll, which we will not have any payroll in the water sewer department anymore.
Oh, wait a second. You've adjusted this since I didn't see that we dropped legal a significant amount.
So
Abby,
I had discussion with Chris and
Chris.
Eric about some stuff and we determined that number kind of together and hoped to guesstimate.
Well, I would completely agree with you because the $700,000 that we had budgeted on the first one that I looked at seemed like a significantly high number. And well, that's good. Then
Really? Because we've already spent 637,000 this year.
I know, but it's been a really, really busy legal year.
Well, what Chris did say is, it depends on if we go to trial.
Well,
this year or
that's-
not. If we go to trial, it's gonna go way up.
Well, that's the rub, right?
Right, we don't
So-
know where it's gonna go.
Well, yeah, and we don't even know when mediation is yet, other than maybe the 17th of next month. And so,
Really? So they're dragging their feet on setting a date?
no, it's not them, it's the court.
Oh.
Judge Green has got a very full plate.
Yeah, she's compared to what she had, yeah.
All right, so where are we?
Let's just start with maintenance, supplies and operating.
Give me a number.
These are basically,
729.000.
these are basically just petty cash costs. that
Little
happen
things,
throughout the
yeah.
course of the year.
Proposed at 1,000. 23, it was 5,000.
Just postage staying higher than that because it's going up.
Postage does seem a little high, even though it's going up.
So we're good on maintenance,
Maintenance
supplies,
supplies,
Fine.
operating.
yeah,
office supplies,
yeah.
yeah.
Postage, I think we could bring that down to 7,500.
Well.
Or
but
8,000.
If we adjust, ordinance.
Oh.
So something else that we're
Yeah.
discussing, that I've been discussing with
That's
the
what I
rate
was thinking.
specialist, and I've had this discussion with Kath and Nathan as well. And with Tim, is adjusting our bill schedule. Currently, we're billing quarterly. And to improve our cash flow within the township, we've looked at the potential of billing monthly.
Mhm.
We cannot currently staff a field operator that can go out and read all the meters. That would be an entire another position that we would be
Right.
needing. But to remedy that, what we could do is continue reading quarterly,
Yes,
the actual read on the meters, but then break that down, the minimum charge, I think, is 170.44. So break that down and it ends up being $56 and some change. So we would bill the first 2 months of the quarter at that $56, that average breakdown, 1/3. And then the third month would be an actual read. And they would pay either the 56 and change if they're using the minimum, or they would pay the additional difference. So that would be a way to increase our for cash flow. And then also my hope is, at some point, depending on if we were able to get that USDA, that loan or not, is to look at changing our meters over to the telemetry system, which would then read, monthly, and it gives a more accurate read. Angela said that, like, they use this at the system that she came from, and they're able to tell at a pretty specific time frame where water loss is coming from and why there would be like major increases on bills or decreases or whatever. They use that for things like being able to tell when your neighbor is stealing your water from you. She used an example of, they were able to tell that somebody's water usage was really high, and they could figure out why. They weren't doing anything different, so they were able to see that the usage was high between like specific hours, and put a camera out and we're able to see that. For example, the neighbor was coming over and drinking water and using it to fill I know, sounds sketchy, but I mean, if it's a
It is
valid,
sketchy.
right? Exactly, it looks like a duck, walks like a duck. But my hope is that we can go to that type of meter reading. It would be costly. We'd have to replace all of our meters, and we're talking about possibly putting up radios that would have to be throughout the township for that ping off to be able to read, and or having the field operators have a handheld reader, and they would then drive through a neighborhood, and once they're within so many, I don't know what maybe you know this, but when they're within so many X amount of distance of the meters, it will just automatically load for them. And this would be getting us in a step closer to going that direction if we can change the meters over also.
We don't have to do that, right? We can start this without.
Yeah, we
changing
can
the
start
meters
this without changing the meters, and that's my
And
hope.
then do
Let's
that.
get us
down
in the
road.
process of going, and then if we can get these new meters, then we're already there, and we're not changing over all the reads, and people getting the monthly bills.
But if you bill monthly, you got a cost of doing that.
Correct.
I
So-
know, has that been figured out what? that
We're
cost
still
is?
working on it.
Okay.
It's something that we're still.
So it's not necessarily gonna be an extra 2,500, because you get
No, I don't.
10,000 now,
no,
it's
I
probably
don't
gonna
know.
be.
And then there's also, I think currently, even the people who are doing, so one thing that we'd like to do is encourage people to do the ACH payments. And if they're getting ACH, then they'll only be getting their bill through email, but I think currently they're getting the bill in email and still in the mail form. So we're, Angela is working on reconciling those differences.
So you would
I'm not getting
require,
it.
You're not getting email. Okay,
You're
so,
not getting an email.
okay, so what we're
It
trying to
depends.
do then is anybody who's doing ACH should be getting an emailed bill and not a physical bill in the mail, which
but are
was-
we mandatory that they get?
we're not, no.
Because I don't want people not to do ACH because
No.
they want a physical
No, but
bill.
usually, so like if you look at your other utility bills, you can usually opt in
Right,
or opt out of
Mhm.
paper billing. So,
and
like
we
I
do,
said, we're just in the beginning stages of it. It's just an idea that we're looking at trying to do to encourage people.
And we pushed and pushed to get a lot of people signed up for ACH.
and that has grown a lot.
It has.
And I think the fear with that is that people initially, my understanding is that people thought that they would be charged to do ACH. And so I think as long as we keep educating and encouraging people to do it that way, it will be helpful.
Well, when I wait on anybody and they pay with a check, or I always say, you know, or
Right.
even cash, and do you want to sign up for ACH? No, no,
So,
no.
so anyways, we're actively working to reconcile the billing issue where people aren't getting, if they're getting an email bill and
They
they
don't
don't
need it.
want the paper bill, then we don't need to send them a paper bill.
Really, it's a
Although this
buck.
is probably not
Oh,
part of
easily,
this
yeah.
subject per se, but for those people that wish to pay by mail as opposed to ACH, if there's no charge for ACH because of the convenience factor, what about the sort of inconvenience factor that the township might have by having to process all this extra paperwork and having a slight charge to cover our cost of doing business by handling that, which would be an enticement to go to an ACH.
That's a potential too. I mean, that's something that we can
Just
look at
something,
with the.
It's probably, like I say, it's probably not the right venue, but
Be charged on the bill, like an admin type.
The $5.
that was gonna be my next
That's
question.
already in there.
So,
Or
so
what
something
we-
else that,
But if you do it, it was gonna be about, one of my other question is that if we did go to a monthly um, pay, does that mean that each month there's a $5 administrative fee?
Very good
so
question.
we would kind of, again, we're just in the beginning stages of this, but we did kind of talk about that and what it would look like, because we don't want to discourage people or discourage the process of doing the monthly billing by increasing that charge to
Well,
something
yeah, it would
that's.
tenfold it.
Right, so what we did talk about was, it's $5 a bill. right
$5
now.
every quarter.
So $5 a quarter, so if we increased it to $6 and then spread it out among the 3 payments, it would be a $2 fee per,
Per
yeah,
month.
per month. We'd still increase it by $1, and then again, it would, there would be some,
Which I don't see where there's a specific revenue line item for administrative fees.
I'd have to look and see where it goes.
Well, I would think these would be reasonable things to have on the budget.
But they-
If that's it shouldn't be,
called?
it shouldn't
It's
be
called the-
built into the water sales or sewer sales. It should be a specific
I don't
line
know.
item.
I'll ask.
There's a couple of those ancillary charges on your water bill, but not necessarily line items, I think.
I think they should be.
One is
split up.
administrative, what's the other one? What's the second one?
I don't get water bill.
Oh. Well, the reason, ACH is an automatic draw from a bank account, right?
Right.
And that's part of why I don't like them as an old person, is that I don't like people dipping in my bank account. But the other part of it was,
Might want to get
I
used to
tried
that.
it for a short while. You know, all my other utilities, I put on a credit card and pay the credit card monthly. And that's easier for me because
can do
I
that
miss
with
the
ACH
email
too.
and then I'm late with the damn bill and then I get a,
yeah, you can do that, but I
You
think
can do
there was-
ACH out of your credit card.
I don't know, can we hear?
If you use a credit card or a debit card, there's a 3% convenience charge.
Right, which, yeah, that's the other thing I don't.
Yeah, because we get charged that.
Yeah.
We don't get charged any fees. It goes directly to the.
Right.
Consumer.
We can do ACH.
Might be better than ACH.
Okay.
Well, we'll look into that.
Well,
where it
that
goes.
should definitely show up as a revenue.
Separate.
Yeah.
Separate line item.
Yeah. And if it's built into the water and sewer sales, then it should be extracted out of that and put as a separate line item for revenue.
Service charge.
So just keep in mind also that in working with the rate specialist in separating these, there's gonna be an entirely new GL for this stuff. Because the water will be completely separated from the sewer, so everything will have its own.
Right.
Let's keep that in mind.
Are we still on revenue?
I thought we'd been way down on it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where we were.
We're at, well,
Oh, so we were at postage.
right.
So, you want me to keep postage or adjust it down?
I would keep it there.
Oh, when you talked about the ordinance, were you saying something, did that have to do with the postage?
Yes.
Oh, if we're sending out, we would be sending out in theory.
More bills.
More bills.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know,
unless
we
people are
didn't have
opting
to,
out of that.
yeah, we don't have to mail the ordinance out to people.
No.
We just tell them where it's available on,
No.
On
we
the
put a
web-
note on the bill and tell them,
the-
Yeah,
go to the website.
I'm looking at legal. Have we got past that or are we still?
I'm on professional and contractual services.
Okay, that's.
And I just,
Is this an adjustment because of CPI?
this is an adjustment because of the billing clerk is now,
In their payroll.
is part of F and B.
Oh, okay.
So we pay for that monthly and we pay
Okay.
for F and B out of professional. and
Okay,
contractual.
okay.
And I did add a little extra for. And it goes up, I think, what is it, September 1st? We make the adjustment.
So it's a solid number.
Yes.
and legal again is our best guesstimate.
Well. If we're going to trial, that probably won't happen this year, will it?
So Eric and Chris don't think so, but we
Talk about this.
Well, it could
Yeah.
probably start this year. It would probably, I don't know how easy it is to get onto the docket. Remember, this has been. Even the state people that oversee what are still on dockets, I'm wondering, why is this still on a docket? They probably haven't.
Well,
asked
the
that.
original one's off the docket.
I understand.
That's settled. So it'd be the new one that just started in April.
Right,
Right.
and so
Relatively new.
I hope not. I sure hope.
It's gonna be a brand new key. I can't imagine getting on the docket for trial docket for this year. I just can't, because the new case. You know, it's sort of like judges try to dispose of those, I think, in 18 months, but any new cases.
Yeah. I,
It
So
sounds like the
do-
attorneys think 300,000's a pretty solid number.
I think at this point it is. unless we think-
I will let them
well,
know.
it was
I'm
a
sorry.
whole lot better than
Sorry.
the 700,000.
We're gonna go over.
Them up.
Yeah, you need to start a timer every time we talk. I'm on the phone, Abby. It's like
I'll
time's
do that.
up.
I'll do that. Sorry, I gotta go by.
Yeah, stop it every 15 minutes. Well, I guess we better leave it the way it
I'd
is.
leave it 300.
Water and sewer purchased, those do you think will go down too? Well, not really, not a lot.
Are we staying in order?
So the only thing that I'm wondering about this,
Mhm.
and the one thing that I've been wondering for a long time on the purchases of water and sewer, the court has made it very clear that we are a wholesale customer. And I don't know if these numbers represent a wholesale price.
Yes,
They do.
these numbers are the actual amounts we have paid the city.
But that still
So-
doesn't answer my question. Because the city has still been charging us as a retail customer.
Right, but we're not paying them that rate.
I understand, but have they come to us? All right, so let me ask you this. Have they brought to us what the wholesale rate is?
Oh, no, it's,
right.
we're paying what our attorneys determined in 2018, what the wholesale rate.
Which was 61, the usage of 61%.
I don't know what the usage is, I just know what the,
I would say that this number, and I don't know how to push this. My guess is that this number is high.
Well, Sewer or water?
Both.
Both.
I can reach out to the attorneys later if you want.
Well, I would,
I don't think we need to reach out to the attorneys.
Behind them.
yeah, I think that
It's called the city.
the court spoke. The court spoke on this. And it was determined that
Well, they've
We are-
spoken on it through through 17. Yeah.
they spoke to it. I don't know how they would,
We don't have a rate set yet, that's what.
that's my point, is that this is something that's been bugging me a little bit, is that the city was going to just continue to charge the price up until such time as the case was settled. Question becomes, is the case in question, what does the case mean? Does case mean all cases? Does it mean the one that we just settled? Because that was where it was determined that we were a wholesale client. So I guess the question I have, and maybe at this point, from a budgetary standpoint, we don't worry about it because that number can only go down, which would help our budget. And so somewhere along the line, somebody's gonna have to push to go, why are we not getting these wholesale rates?
So what do we want to do?
So I think right now,
I think you would talk about that at your next bargaining session privately with our attorneys.
yeah. Yeah, even though that's in the public domain now. So, yeah, let me let's move on with this, leave it exactly the way it is, because it'll only get better if when it's adjusted.
Water and sewer.
I think so.
Do they need printing and publishing and advertising?
They did in 2022, 23.
Yeah. Can you speak on that? The printing, publishing, advertising, what do you guys need? Anything there?
I don't know why they would. need
What GL are we looking at?
592-537-900. 0.000.
Did they print shut off notices or something? Did we?
We
No,
do.
that would just be under office supplies.
Oh,
The only thing that I can think, if there was a printing and publishing, advertising, it might be for like, flushing notices or something like that, that are done in the newspaper.
It's 200. I don't think it'll kill us.
No, I don't. I think we're gonna leave that alone.
Get rid of it and save $200.
That's a great
You,
mindset. I love
you
it.
could potentially still spend the $200, Laura, it would just be from somewhere else.
Just be not budgeted $200.
So are we leaving it in there?
Yeah. leave it in there. We've had refuse in the past, but we don't have it now.
Yeah, said if it's not enough, you'll pay the difference.
I don't know, it was 0 twice and then
Yes, it's
32. I'm not sure.
I think that's spelled wrong. It says refuse.
Where are you?
Refuse.
The number large at all.
I don't even know.
That
where-
was a joke.
Oh,
Refuge, we're
I
back up
wasn't
there.
sure.
922.
I refuse.
So we don't pay any phone service for water.
Oh, I know who he is.
Um,
Where are we at, guys?
I don't know.
We don't have
Lead
a,
us, Abby.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
why would we have a phone bill now since we don't have a water clerk?
She still answers the phone and talks to customers.
We don't have a phone bill.
Isn't that covered in the treasurer's budget?
That's what
It's not in my.
Kinda
office
wondering the same
anymore. She's
thing.
in building. Charge it to the building budget.
Why would they be charged to the building like that?
Cause it's next
Bu-
to Lynn's.
Building doesn't answer the,
Cause it's next to Lynn.
Somebody's gotta pay it.
it's a,
We don't even have anything budgeted for the phone, do we?
no,
Yeah, we don't need it.
All right.
there we go.
Move on then.
We have 1,800 for landline.
Where is it?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
no, we have
over
nothing
here.
Oh, we
budgeted for
don't have
this.
anything.
We should have something for landline.
Well, okay.
We do.
Hold on,
Yeah.
let's go back up to gas and oil because we don't have anything budgeted there either. There's 200 there and 50 for transportation and travel.
What is
Yeah,
this?
you don't have gas or oil anymore because you don't have any vehicles. They're all F and V's
Oh,
vehicles.
yeah. good.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
wouldn't that be like,
What that
Mhm.
generator?
or weed whackers or any of that stuff?
That goes through on the maintenance allowance.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you said it out loud.
See what you did. Okay, so what about the garbage then? Can you move that over?
I refuse to talk about it.
Yeah, I've moved 100 over.
Trash,
Leave it at 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
landline,
I think for this year, we should. We're already at 309, so probably 400
Which one?
for the
landline.
telephone
And
landline.
that's for the phones in the back too, right? For
Yes.
The field operators,
Yeah,
So rather than 18, it's 400?
400.
Yeah, that was a heck of a bump.
but we're on, yeah, we budgeted 1,800, but we only used 309.
So
Yeah.
why don't we, if that's represents, once again, 10 months, does that mean we should go to $400 there?
That's what I
That's what-
said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say
That's
that.
exactly what.
Well,
so-
apparently I only hear about 25% of what you say. And I only
Do I need to-
really,
Do I need to sit next to you, Steve?
no, it doesn't matter what distance you're from.
These though by department, or is this where you just split it between? Like the IT and everything, does it get split that way? Is that why it was like that?
The IT internet,
I don't know, that's what I'm asking you, like, you know how you split between like,
if
like the
that
heat charge, you determine.
by square footage,
Is that how you're determining the
IT,
garbage? Yeah, well, the garbage, the landline, the heat. Again, there's nothing in that budget.
So we turn the heat off in Angela's office, so that'll save us about $1,000.
You see what I'm saying?
He said the
Well,
heat's
we didn't-
already off at our
we haven't
office.
spent
there,
anything
Laura.
on garbage.
What'd Kath
for
say?
this year.
I said that office is already cold. I don't think you're heating it.
No, I know, but we need to budget.
I'm just asking, is that how you split it, or where did those numbers? I know that you didn't do. this
I didn't put
budget.
any
I
numbers in
understand
there.
that. I know that, I know you didn't do the last budget. But I'm just asking, is that how that is split? So
I-
that maybe that's why there's a number in there, because I don't understand either why it was 0, 0, 0, and then 1,000.
For where?
The
The
heat,
heat,
924.
or the same thing with the
Zero,
phone,
zero,
why was
zero.
it 71, 79?
We don't charge the water department for any heat. So that 1,000 was budgeted last year,
They're not getting it.
but we don't charge them, so it should be 0.
That's what I'm asking. Same thing with the land buying. Is it just split equally across everybody? Like all the departments?
No.
Okay.
Goes by how many phones there are and stuff. So, I mean, 1,800 was way too much.
Right, I
For this-
changed it to 400, but I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that I understood the way that it was being split
Yeah.
or not split.
Utilities, I kind of divided that by,
Okay, so
like
we're good
Steve,
with,
yeah,
because the 26.7 that we're at right now
Yeah.
was 2 months shy, so. it'll
Right.
be-
So the water and sewage usage, what would that be?
there's nothing. We've
No.
never used it.
No.
Well, before we go there, the utilities system.
That's,
Are these all the ultimate adjustments, year-end adjustments?
no.
Oh,
The utility system is, we get a power bill for every lift station. We get a power bill for the lights at the lift stations.
okay,
There's a lot of utilities with them.
okay.
The
all
water booster station, the
Yep.
3 water towers.
right.
Thanks, Kath. I
The
knew
master
that.
meter
So any-
vaults,
any
the pump
place that
station at
utilizes
Bagley and 32.
Some utility
Right,
relative
we
to.
get about 30 power bills a month.
Okay.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, you
Fun.
get writer's cramp, Simon. Sure.
That's why I use a typewriter.
You type your name and the bank takes that.
Yes.
My typing speed's down to about 20 words a minute.
20 words a minute on a typewriter.
At least.
I'm more interested in maintenance on system. That's the line item for the monthly report we get from.
No, it is not. Maintenance on system is where, when there's a dig in MacArthur's or Bedrock Villas, this one makes me very nervous because
Unknown.
it's very unknown. Sometimes we don't get billed for the last month of the fiscal year when we think we're doing good and then we're not.
So in theory, maybe these numbers should be coming down a little bit because over the years, we've fixed so many of these.
No,
No.
no.
Well, no,
We have fixed such a small percentage
well,
of those.
all right, that's fair. but
And that's what we were trying to get the
I like
grant
where you're
for,
going
right?
with that.
Yeah.
There are 2 new ones this week, Steve.
How many?
2 this week. They're fixing one today.
Yeah,
And it's only
on
Tuesday.
just because of
Tomorrow on Long Rapids.
yeah, mostly because it is cold.
So the way we're talking then, it is that amount we spend for the effective lines from the main to the curbs.
Well, if they,
Right, but that's not part of the maintenance allowance that
Well,
that is included in our monthly F and B.
What is that for?
Yeah,
So the maintenance allowance that F and V has is for things like pump station repairs, meter calibrations. This year we're doing a panel at one of the lift stations. Last year we did adding the water towers to the SCADA system, those kind of maintenance projects. We were originally doing the digs as well, but if you'll remember, the township asked us to pull those out of the maintenance allowance. And we cut the maintenance allowance in half from 250,000 to 120,000. Because, the township wanted to save the 5% markup on items on the maintenance allowance
Right.
for that large number of charges.
yeah, so this number could be 75,000 or it could be 420,000.
I mean, the last 2 fiscal years, it was
Pretty
over
good.
367,000, 384,000.
Yeah.
250,000 might be low.
So, I was just gonna say, given what history suggests to us, why are we? I mean,
You've also had a
Obviously-
contractor change, Steve. So for a while, we were using Bedrock pretty consistently. And then have been using MacArthur excavation more recently. In part because they are more cost effective. So, there was some dispute when we first were taking over that there was some performance issues, billing issues, other things with MacArthur that made it more advantageous to go with Bedrock. But now we're primarily back to using Mr. MacArthur as as the excavator that has saved the township probably, what do you think, Michelle, maybe 25 or 30%?
Probably, yes.
But we are
Well-
still averaging about one service line break a week.
Well, I mean, that's great. And hopefully that will mean that, if we have to RFP some of this stuff into the future, then, any competitors will have to sharpen their pencils.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot to choose from either. but-
So in other words, that seems like a reasonable number. If we take roughly 20% off of that 385, then that's somewhere around 60,000, which puts us pretty close to that, sort of 275, 250, 275 number. And we can just,
Yeah, it is
personally-
kind of a moving target, but.
yeah, personally, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable bumping that number.
I would too.
So
Yeah.
275 or 3.
275?
I would say
The
three.
maintenance on system, I was thinking 3.
All right, 3.
Okay.
It just makes it harder to get this balance, but okay.
Where do you have to be? Do you have a hot date?
No, it's just saying, if you're trying to get a balanced budget, we're going backwards.
So maintenance on equipment, would that be where the jutter would come out of, like that GL? Cause if that would wipe that out right away.
2,400.
Yeah, that's been the jetter. Some of that goes through the maintenance allowance too. I think with the maintenance on equipment, I think that the 2,500 is high because you no longer, have that truck. I think that was partly the blue bomber there, that fell into that line. So,
There was
You're
a
looking at-
vehicle maintenance that fell into.
yeah, was it? Okay.
Yeah, so that was a separate line.
So, and I think that, that may have been used for the generators. Cause I know a couple years ago, it was, the previous supervisor had switched it so that instead of using F&V's contractor to directly do maintenance on the generators, they were having Omega Electric do maintenance on the generators and billing it to the township instead of to us.
So would 1,500 or 1,000 be more reasonable?
Or
I
not.
would say 1,500. I'll have to check with Nathan Lytle to see if they've done the annual preventive maintenance or we're just waiting for an invoice from them. Cause it may be a fourth quarter expense depending on what the timing is on that. So I would think that 1,500 would probably be more realistic.
Oh, yeah,
Maintenance, repair and build.
prior years.
Just maintenance and repair, is this gonna include the
Or fixing
windows?
the garage doors
Oh, yeah.
or
What about those windows?
what windows?
Under maintenance,
Oh,
building.
like separate, like, office window. Separate that into that.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I didn't think of that actually.
Well, it's been between 4,000 and 5,000 last 2 years.
Well, 7's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grounds and maintenance, that's the grounds and maintenance for all the lift stations and all that too.
Mowing and
Mowing,
Cutting the grass and so on,
Cutting the grass.
That's
snow
the same.
plowing, et cetera. We won't have any expense of maintenance on the water towers?
we do the roads, so we
You
do
should.
Well, just if
grass and so on. I thought we
I think that falls under that ground and maintenance repair. But I'm thinking about I know that with the 32 tower, I would hope that we don't have any maintenance on that, but we have the
It's the US 23 South one that we haven't painted yet.
Well,
isn't
I
it?
think Kath Nathan told me that we were about due for maintenance on that.
Yeah, and that would fall under more of a capital item.
yeah.
Maintenance on the tower, that de minimis amount of 3,000 that was originally budgeted, I think had to do more with like the lights and things like that. The aviation light. If you look that, obviously the last couple of years, you haven't had any activity in that line. So I think that 3,000 might have been, remember when it sprung a leak?
Yep.
I can't remember if maybe that was like from that emergency repair or something like that,
That's what
but most of
what
that
I
all
was
falls under
thinking.
the
Yeah.
maintenance
Right,
allowance except for the
M32,
painting.
right.
Yeah, so if a pinhole happened,
Or a bullet.
or let's say,
What is? Or a bullet hole.
So are we doing, putting anything under water maintenance?
geez.
No, I would not until
Good.
we have I think that, like I said, that painting, the next painting project would fall under a capital improvement.
All right. Vehicle, no.
We don't have a vehicle.
Mm,
What should we get for that blue bomber?
You got no wheels.
Rent
I don't know.
expense, nothing.
I don't even know.
What dues do we pay?
American and the water,
Oh,
whatever that,
the AWA or,
that would be it. Yeah.
oh, wow.
Are we leaving the banking fee?
Banking fees. I
Laura,
think
do you
we
think
should
that-
tell the bank we don't want to pay those anymore.
It seems maybe a little high, because we've only spent,
Yeah, we got 1,300, so we got maybe
do we bring that down to
$1,500.
1,500?
Yeah,
Geez, are we in the last bit?
Well, remember last year I had to keep doing all these budget adjustments.
I don't
Oh,
know.
we remember
But-
it well.
So
You don't even know what we're talking about.
Budget.
I don't think-
Okay, so I adjusted that down to 1,500, to
Okay.
3,000, and then the bond and fee 0, dues and memberships. put that down.
I don't,
Dues and memberships?
Yeah.
We've paid 2,100 already this year.
I know, but what do we,
Where are you? You know, you're looking at data processing.
Oh,
But dues and memberships.
574.
what are we, I mean, aside from that subscription,
What is it fluctuate?
So you guys are a member of the Michigan Rural Water Association. I think that's actually your primary, because that's for communities under 10,000. And one of the benefits of that, although you haven't had, opportunity to use that, is that they will do consulting services. For issues, if you were to be, self-performing operations and needed technical support. I mean, currently we provide technical support in-house, from amongst our engineers and operations group. So that would be the only dues and membership that I can think of that you have.
so is it important to be a member of them? I mean,
Like you said, it is critical, sort of like being part of the MTA. You maybe don't use
Just-
all.
we got rid of
the-
that.
We're not having that conversation today. We're not going there today.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's a.
Well, you're right.
policy.
Now,
You don't have to maintain that membership. They said there are membership benefits, but you're generally not using them because of the operations contract.
well, can we look into what are the pros and cons of not being a member of these places and then make those
Yeah, I have that.
decisions?
I just wrote it down.
I think she just said that we really don't need to be,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
our contract with them, they
Yeah.
cover that.
Well, that's why I bring it up, is that unless there's some other perk that we're,
No, I think that's left over from Maria, whoever was running the system back.
could very well be, and if that's the case, maybe we
Can I say
can
that?
jettison some of these. but-
oh, no, you
No,
didn't.
I'm saying.
Or I'm gonna adjust it down to 6,000 for now.
We're taking,
why don't we just get rid of
You
we're
want
changing
me
it
to-
to
because I don't
6,000.
wanna,
it? No, I know.
I know,
Data.
I know what happens.
Data processing is the BSNA.
Yeah, we're.
Have to have it.
We have to have that at 2,500. And, oh no.
I see the
Snow
next
plowing.
one is schools and conventions.
We
What,
have 0
why do
here.
we need that? Oh, never mind.
F
My-
and V
my
pays
bad.
for.
Yeah,
any
no,
of-
I was looking, my ruler was not ruling properly.
I think
You
it
have
was
to rule the ruler.
I think it was the ruler.
The operator,
I think
Well-
4,000 is pretty realistic for snow
And it
plowing.
looks like it based.
Yeah,
on
but let
just-
me ask you this, does this fall under the, where we were talking about the grounds and maintenance?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Snow plowing gets its
It's
own,
separate?
yeah.
Oh, yes, okay,
Grounds and maintenance is more of the lawn care.
okay.
We were in Nashville.
What about general liability and wrongful acts?
It's an insurance, that's a $300 cost, but.
I have no idea.
Steve, you're the pro.
We,
Well, we must be doing. You have the water clerk. Who would now be. Subcontracted. What other liability things would the township do that would? That would. Impact us. If we're seeding it all out. Then.
Well,
I mean, we certainly have some liability with the towers, for sure.
that's what I was thinking. I mean, is this separate and apart or is this part of our general liability?
I think
coverage?
what you've probably done is just allocated out some expense to the water department, would be my guess. I think we'd have to look at
I'd have to look at the
there would
policy.
definitely be a liability exposure, but whether or not there would be any more of a wrongful act exposure, I would. Frankly, I'd probably say no.
So we could probably get rid of that 300 and just.
Well, I'd
put it
be
under
curious
the-
to see where it otherwise lands, because otherwise that,
I'll pull it out.
yeah.
Yeah. that-
I'm gonna leave it for now.
Yeah, it's only 300.
Because
As far as-
next line is general liability property.
Well, we have to ensure the lift stations. with
The
their-
water
water
tower.
towers, those sorts of things that make the water go from point A to point B.
So we're at 14.
So would the wrongful, the question would be would the general liability and wrongful acts have to do with insurance specific to the township board that maybe was apportioned across all the budgets? Because is that a rider that you added to your insurance last year? Because I know there was a change in some of our other clients' insurance that they wanted them to carry that specifically
Yeah, no,
to
no,
cover
that,
the township
no,
board
that-
member actions.
yeah, no, that wouldn't apply to that. And your comment relative to the board doing an action that might result in some wrongful act, that would be protected under a different section of the
Has to
policy.
be in the general
Protected otherwise, elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, we have our own errors and omissions insurance and obviously professional liability insurance that would cover anything in
Yeah,
regard to our own employees' actions.
yeah,
So,
and you're protecting us
Yep.
vicariously.
yep, you guys are named insured on our policy.
We're done with that. 300. Vehicle insurance, we don't need that.
They wouldn't
anyway.
have any.
Appreciation.
I don't know why we only budgeted 200,000 when. We've
For
always,
depreciation, you know?
pardon me?
What are you talking about?
The
Depreciation?
Yeah,
Well, we should,
Be more than that, right?
But you probably need to talk to your auditor on that
I would say
one.
that's an auditor,
Yeah,
year-end adjustment.
Yeah, whatever their stuff.
Depreciation.
Oh, yeah, that's.
right, but I mean, it's a fund, I mean. By putting it in, you're funding for the future, aren't you? So, yeah, you need to have it. We spent 12,000 on communications equipment and we have a $6,000 budget. Because we had a $6,000 expenditure about in 22, 23.
So that would be more than likely your SCADA cell bill. So you pay an annual fee for all of your cellular modems for your SCADA system. That's invoiced directly to the township. So I would anticipate that your budget would remain the same on that or go up slightly. So that 12,500. I would recommend not having 6,000 as the budget amount on that one.
You would recommend kicking that up?
Being higher, go back up to the, 12,500-ish mark because and I think that rate is locked in for, I want to say 3 or 5 years from UIS. But it is a
2019,
recurring
2022,
fee that is not gonna go down.
Mm.
So let's let me check into that one to
that
make
one
sure
too.
that 2 years isn't that 12,000, since we didn't pay anything in 23, 24.
Yeah, it was about 6,000 in
Right,
22,
so-
23.
Well,
Um,
in the 23-24 year, when that was installed, they included that first year's fee
Okay,
in the capital projects.
okay.
It's only after the initial year of install that it becomes a
Yeah.
recurring fee.
I see.
That's when they got us.
That's how they do it.
Hey, 12, that's all, that's your towers, your booster station, your Bagley Street pump station and all your lift stations. 12 months of cell fees for those for data.
That's important that we hear from those places, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's really, you know, there's a lot of pieces of equipment covered by that.
We paid off that bond, right?
Right, that
Michelle, that bond has been paid.
That, um, should be paid
In the spring,
in
we'll
the,
get a bill in
Should we
in
put
April,
some,
oh, so we
Oh.
still have to pay it.
right?
so
after,
that we have to
April
put a
1?
line item in there then, right?
Yeah, it gets paid after April 1,
so we need to put a number there.
but that money will come out of the fund balance because it's already in a savings account.
Right,
Right.
it is,
Right.
yes.
Why wasn't it in the past? What changed?
It
'Cause-
always has been,
Well, then why do we have
Why
line
did
items?
we, why did we have a line item with? a
because we
number?
need a line item to pay it.
So then we have to put a number there.
Yeah,
All right. So does that number represent 12,000 or? Yeah, but it's, this is like the last of the bond payment?
this is the last of the bond.
Is this
payment.
next payment? It's
So-
the actual principal payment. It's not the interest, right?
But the principal payment also has interest with it.
Yes.
Right.
So it's probably, the principal payment will definitely be the 200,000.
Those are gonna be two,
And then
three.
after that, we're done.
And then
right?
the interest payment will probably be about 10,000.
I was gonna say, it would seem to me
It's
that
gonna go
if it's the
down.
last one, we must be way down there on the. interest.
Yeah, it's
We would
probably
pay
less
one
than
in the
that,
spring and one in the fall.
right?
So would there be gosh, if you're at the end of this.
Let me
line,
look and see what we paid for fall interest and
yeah,
that's
my
what it
guess
should
would be
be.
that it wouldn't be anywhere near that much. It would be,
So in the income, do we
5.
have to show that fund to, as income? If you're gonna put it in as an expense here. And you got it in an account, a savings account, don't we have to show it as a transfer of money in?
No, because it's already in this fund. It's just in a savings account earning interest. Laura's been collecting on that bond.
It
for
just doesn't
years.
show up on here. Is that what you were wondering?
Well. Every expense has to have.
But the
income.
bank account.
But the income was recorded in a previous year. Over the last 20 years.
so this is in arrears.
Yes,
All right,
Yeah, I would think that interest payment is gonna be way less.
yeah, yeah, but I'll double check.
less than 10,
Oh, I would bet. Especially if you're at the end of,
they showed 35,000 last.
if you're at the end of the
No.
bond,
No,
you
no,
had
no.
$12,000. I'd be
12,600.
surprised if it's 7,500.
I think it's going to be under 600
Well,
because there's
600 or 6,000?
6,000. Because that 12,600 is two payments, one in the spring and one in the fall.
And I would say it's probably gonna be even less than that.
Right, so I would put 5,000
Yeah.
in there.
All right, that's fair.
And we're leaving 200,000.
And then we'll
in the
adjust that
Yes,
where we
'cause
need
The
to.
principal always stays the same.
So 5,000. Wait,
Did a lot better.
Miscellaneous interest charges, that's an interesting line item.
Oh, that one is the interest we paid the city when we did the
Oh.
settlement,
So that'll be 0,
zero now,
unless we pay them something next year.
which,
wouldn't be in.
which we won't pay them any interest.
Well, I thought they
Well,
were
we'll-
getting
well,
that 50,000 the
Well,
first,
then we,
if we settle in.
yeah,
Yeah.
and realistically, that's a couple of years.
Okay. So. That's why there's money in there this year.
Okay,
So how far are we?
we are 400.
What about equipment?
The equipment, I just left it at the 1,000, but I'm willing to change that to whatever. I don't know if you guys talked about that last step down.
No, we didn't.
Equipment.
I don't know what we,
What kind of equipment do we?
I don't think we do much with equipment because it all goes through the allowance.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Which GL are you looking at?
974.010 equipment.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is, the sewer jetter.
Mm.
We normally do everything through the maintenance allowance, but I know there was some discussion about rehabbing or upgrading that piece of equipment, which would be a township owned piece of equipment. I mean, we can do it either way, but you could probably take that $1,000 out.
I think you better leave it right there.
I think we should increase it to 50 if we're buying a new used jetter.
Yeah, because I mean, you've only used,
If
I would
that's
have to
the-
even see what the activity, the $305 was for.
I'm gonna have faith that our jetter can be repaired and last another 10 years. That's
I like. the
I
way-
would not have
my
that. level of
faith.
faith.
But we already know we've spent under this budget term, right? So we know that if it's repaired, it's probably gonna be more than $1,000.
Oh, yeah. Or spent 2,400 just to figure out what's
Yeah,
wrong.
just to see what's wrong with it.
You voted yes.
We found out what's wrong.
But I mean, there is the
I voted
potential
no.
He
too,
voted no.
there is the potential too that it just needed to be taken apart and cleaned. There's that.
So it's
We really don't know.
There's some positive vibes
I
out there.
can't swear you on this one.
Yeah, I think we should budget. to replace it.
I'm hoping you're right,
Yeah.
because I don't wanna have to say I told you so.
I'm a realist on a 35-year-old piece of equipment, probably more than needs a good
You
gutting.
say
Well, the
realist,
issue
I
with
say
that piece of
negative.
equipment is that
Well, we can always assess toward the end of the contract year, what's left of the maintenance allowance. And utilize, the balance on your maintenance allowance to either do an upgrade on it or replace it. So, I would be curious, Michelle, what the $305 that was expended so far in this budget year was for.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I'll look at that too.
Or it might be the standby generator at the township hall, maybe it was apportioned out based on square footage of
It's
departments.
part of the professional contractual services.
Where's
It's
that?
not on there separately. It's part of their monthly report. Shows how much of the monthly allowance.
What are we doing with that?
Yeah, well,
Let's look at F and B's report.
oh, how bad in the hole are we?
now we get to
We
start
were
over.
74, yes, we're worse. I was doing a lot better.
No, we started out at a negative 190,000, so. Well, I say we just add 190,000 to the income. Call it good.
You know, seems like that may have been done in the past, but we're not gonna do that today. Sorry.
Well, I mean, honestly, the reality is, that's probably exactly what we're gonna have to do, except it's gonna have to be done by way of adjusting rates. We're not gonna find. Probably not gonna find $175,000 unless we just fabricate numbers. If we decide to go, well, we're only gonna spend $150,000 on legal. That may be a very unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
So the recommendation always is from your financial manager to do at least inflationary rates on your water and sewer rates. So that, normally accounts, between 2% and 3% a year. To make those adjustments because, even though because I think about our contract with you goes up at the ECI, the employee cost index. So, that's at least you have to cover that increase with your rates. To leave them flat, which I think they were last adjusted in 2022. Any financial manager, and I know that you guys were waiting because of the litigation and everything else to see what happened, but going forward, that would be the best recommendation would be to make at least a small inflationary adjustment annually to your rates. Has Dawn recommended anything else, Abby?
Let's just
Well,
recommend.
the only other thing that is a complete,
Yeah, we're not talking about that right now.
the one thing that is an unknown, and I mentioned it earlier, as to whether or not the purchases that we make, are they reflective as a retail rate or as a wholesale rate? And so if they are reflected as a retail rate, then those numbers are high. And if those wholesale rates are 25% less, whatever they might be, that makes up a significant portion of our deficiencies. And so I just don't know how to answer that question. And that might just have to be something that I'll reach out to, unless you want to, I'll reach out to either Chris or Eric and find out how do we, what are they? And B, how do we move the needle?
So do you want to know the rates we're paying?
Well, whether we use those rates that Fahey
Those
said
are-
to use.
Right,
Those may not represent what the actual rate is to be,
right.
because the court. That was just something that Bill did. In
2018,
18,
yeah.
okay, which was prudent.
It
But
was
it may
supposed to
not,
be based on what the settlement
was anticipated.
hated at, yeah.
But at that point, it hadn't been determined yet through litigation what we were. Now it has been. So that number could be, I don't know, I don't know what the wholesale rate is. If it's 25% less, 40% less, I don't know. And so that would have a direct impact on our cost of doing business.
We don't know these numbers,
I
won't know these numbers until the dust is finally settled
Well, but I think what I'm saying is I think the dust settled on that.
on the first part.
Yeah.
But going forward, we took a lot of dust out there.
Yeah, because we
I
only have
understand, but we've already,
I don't.
the court's not gonna reverse its position moving
We can't do
forward.
it.
They're gonna say we're still a wholesale customer.
Well, I understand that.
And so
Already had a recommendation.
I guess the only thing we can do right there, do we have another budget meeting coming up?
We're gonna have to.
Schedule one. Schedule one right now.
Maybe I can learn something in that period of time then. Because obviously we gotta find some money, and I don't disagree with F and B that even if you took a modest increase, which by the way, if you'll notice on this budget, we have allocated a significant amount of money to capital improvement. Zero.
Well, right, I was
No,
gonna
it's-
say, what are you talking
I
about?
was gonna say, yeah.
That was sarcasm. How'd I do?
You did good.
You can feel some.
Well, so if, even saying that, I mean, we haven't done any capital improvement, so we gotta do something.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's hardly even, when it comes out pretty clearly in black and white, it's kind of just stares you in the face.
Well, we've had a little bit of a capital improvement but with no plan. We put some money away from all these funds each year. We got money from the safety. We got money from the general fund that just leftover funds. So in a way, we have kind of did it, but not with no names on it.
Well, yeah. and I
But that
think the
doesn't
only-
help the water fund.
Yeah, the
Because we
only,
can't take any of
Yeah,
that money
the
and put
water
it in the
fund
water fund.
Is the
Well, you're
problem.
depreciating, I think the number was 250. So that's not money you're spending now, money you're setting aside to spend later.
Well, and
But we've been depreciating all these years and we haven't set that money aside.
That's the reason we've been in this
Well,
situation. that we're
If
in.
you haven't overspent the rest of the budget, you have, because it's budgeted. So it should be somewhere within the fund. If all the other line items came in at or under budget. Because that money, 250 in the budget was not spent, or whatever it is.
We should technically be done with it. Right?
Okay, but in 2022, we were 671,000 over budget.
Over budget.
I mean, at a loss.
Yeah.
And the only reason we weren't at a loss in
But-
23, 24 is because we put ARPA funds in there. And then we're at a loss right now this year, 822.
On the water fund.
On the water fund, yeah.
But when we do that, then that eats up your depreciation.
Right.
What you're budgeting.
So there's
You're
no-
either not depreciating enough, which is probably not the case, or we're not budgeting realistically on the rest of it. And so. Which is why the rate person told us what she told us.
Right.
I think that's
Basically, that's where our money
chance
comes from.
to Get more income, because I don't know what I'm gonna do. So how soon can we?
I mean, I just read an article, did we all read an article somewhere
That's
about
what I'm thinking.
depreciation? Why it's there.
I think we need to come up with something for this next year increase.
I think we gotta vote on that for April 1 implementation.
Yeah, it's gonna come.
I think we know what the rate increase has to be.
Well,
Yeah, sure.
we've been advised on a conservative level, and that's why I said a higher number, but everybody gasped and choked.
I don't remember that, but.
I do. They do.
I'll have to watch that meeting again.
Yeah,
It's, we go back and watch me, see when you choked.
because I don't know what else we do if we
You
don't
raise
do
the
that.
price of eggs, but you're still selling them.
I heard they're selling them.
Not
for
according to AOC.
Can I buy
So,
them for $3?
Are we debating on what we're doing here for an increase, or what are we doing?
Yeah, and is this the proper?
Well, I
time
don't
to
know if
do
this is the place we can do it. I think it's gotta be on the
Yeah,
agenda.
this is, we're in a
Yeah, we're,
budget session.
yeah.
This is just a workshop.
I
and We
think
can
that- I
discuss
think
what
that-
we're thinking. And-
Discuss it.
Right, we're not gonna vote on it.
Can't make it.
I don't know if I have that material from her, and that's my father.
You recommended 10% of water.
Yeah.
Something together for a rate increase,
3%,
Abby, and we'll put it on the next.
3%, 5, is not.
No, it's
5, 10 and 3.
10 and 3.
Was it 10 and 3?
I'm pretty sure.
And I think we thought 12 and 5, didn't we?
How much more are they gonna bring?
It was
Well, we
10.
can figure out. how
Her
much
recommendations were 10 and
Used over a year. And
I
how
think
much
that's
water, how much
probably more
sewer.
accurate.
Well, it wouldn't be a
And put the
minor,
rate on
minor
and figure out.
cost anyway.
But you bump it more than that. And you don't bump it a nice even number, you put an odd number in there.
Is that your suggestion, or is that what you're recommending not do?
No, he said put an odd number on there.
Like 9.9%. 7.4 or 5%.
$19.99,
What did you say?
Gotta have it.
$19.99, just
They're
under
gonna
20.
complain when we raise the water. I don't care what you say, whatever you raise it to, they're gonna complain, so.
Well, I remember the other thing that we,
Very good.
if,
We'll throw
if
it
we're
in.
going to talk about percentages, I think we also have to talk about what the reality of that percentage means. So if we took, as she said it, if there was a 10% adjustment in water bill, it translates at a, I guess, at a minimum.
And a
of
per
$2.
bill wasn't that much.
$2, but that would be at, that would
Look at
be,
it from a quarterly
would
standpoint.
that be at the 7,000 gallon usage?
Right,
So you know, it might reflect a little bit differently from place to place because of water usage, but $2 to $3 is, you know, a quarter. Wasn't it a quarter?
no, it was $2 a month.
Oh,
I think it was
okay,
around 8.
okay, so about $8, $8 to $10.
Yeah.
I think it was around $8
Okay, I'd have to relook.
For water and sewer
right,
together.
for them together.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's,
so if you
it's
spread
the
that out
palatable.
monthly and only charge and switch over to the monthly bills.
That's again part of.
I
the
think monthly
conversation,
bills will be
switching to
easier for
monthly billing.
people to pay anyways, to budget.
That was my thought on that, especially the fixed income people that are budgeting now for the.
I thought that we had kind of went down this a few years ago. And the extra expense to the township was pretty significant. And the extra amount of just day-to-day work was pretty significant.
But don't, I think from 2 to 3 years ago till now, we have a lot more people signed up for ACA.
And I was gonna ask
I
you,
mean,
do
I
you have
think
any
that-
idea?
Oh, yeah.
Just a ballpark idea, what the percentage of people that have signed up? 25%?
Oh, easily, I would think.
Well, yeah, because sometimes we get like 40,000.
I've gotten up to 50,000.
And do we have, how is it that we are like, how do we communicate that to the people that?
We've sent it out to, because we have 3 cycles right now, so every, like when Kelly was here, at least a couple times, I think last year, we put the ACH form in with their water bill and mailed that out, to each cycle. I think
So like
you
mine, I
added
got
it in there?
I got my water bill, I think today, so,
It's not in there.
huh?
The ACH form is not in there.
Because I already have it? Or just because it's not in cycle?
We would just try to put that form in there for people that got their bills in the mail, just to say, hey, would you like to sign up for ACH? And we would get a lot of them returned. But we do that for 3 months for each cycle. And then we just kind of let it lay for a little while and then did it one more
But
time.
you guys
last
promote
year.
it as people
And
come
we
in.
do, everybody that comes in will say, hey, would you like to sign up for ACH? And no, or, or yeah, I've been wanting to do that.
All right, but we don't
So-
really have an idea of what the, of our users, what that
We could figure it
represents.
out.
I have all the stuff. I mean.
That would be
on my
curious
list.
to see, because it's,
Like how
I wonder
many
if
people
it's-
we bill for cycle 1 and how many people are signed up.
I just
for
wonder how it
ACH.
tracks with society, like with the electric bill or whatever utility.
Speaking of that, I'm sorry to cut you off. That was another thing that we talked about, apart from the monthly billing, is that, Kath and Nathan and Angela pulled a list for me of top users. Cause I know I said that they wouldn't be reading monthly, but there was a list of like some of the commercial users and the higher usage customers that they would do actual reads on every month also, just so that you know that those wouldn't be estimated, those would be actual reads every month.
I think it helps for those people
Yeah.
too, because if they have a leak or whatever, we're catching
Yeah.
it before.
Well, you must be able to notice that now, because I got a call on my own property that I was way over the usage.
And they watch that stuff.
Yeah, I know, so they must have the ability to do that now without.
Right.
They do,
Right.
but it's not as detailed and like specific, so it has to go through at least a whole cycle
Okay,
before they are able to notice.
any deficiencies?
I noticed a hose running across the street there in your subdivision to your house.
Yeah, that, in my case, it was the hose running throughout all of my yard. Way too much.
Forgot to disconnect it from the,
Okay, so
So we're gonna set another date? Or have we?
we haven't yet.
Sometime this month, I presume.
Have to,
yeah, while you're here, we gotta catch you.
say have to, we should.
Do Tuesdays work for everybody?
Tuesday,
Do they work for everybody? Tuesdays are good.
Tuesday's work in the afternoon,
Like you talked about the 11th,
Yeah, the 11th.
that's good for me.
yep,
It's a week from today.
PM.
1 o'clock, yeah.
Yep.
And is this just to go over water or everything?
Is it to finish it
So
all?
we're gonna have to go through the whole thing eventually.
Can we try to do that on the 11th?
We can try.
Mhm.
We can try. But I foresee probably one more. Maybe.
Happy days.
So Tuesday, February 11th at 1 o'clock.
February 11th.
1 o'clock.
So then we have to have a budget hearing
We do that
in
in
March.
March, we do it at 5:30 before the 6 o'clock meeting in March.
That's what I
What-
have trouble showing up for on time.
Did we have a date in March on what that date is?
If there's a
Maybe the
camera,
20th, maybe the 24th.
24th.
March
24th is our board meeting and budget hearing.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Okay, then.
And that's at 6, or no, we do that at 5.
5:30.
5:30.
Any public comment online? So please raise your hand.
Nope, thank you.
Public comment in the building. Okay.
None.
Is there any other discussion? None?
I'm too tired.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Aye.
Voice.
Voice, all in favor of adjournment,
Aye.
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 opposed, the same, meeting is adjourned at 2:51.